This episode of Tutia Bruja is sponsored by Floodwitch, dedicated to providing information that helps you build an ethical witchcraft practice by raising marginalized voices while reclaiming weird. This is Floodwitch. Check it out at floodwitch.com.
I can see you clearly.
Hola, ¿qué tal? You're listening to Tutia Bruja. I'm Bex Carlos, your host. All right, this is number 8, and I just want to, even before we start, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you. The support for this show, 3 weeks in, I guess now, is overwhelming. So thank you. I'm really glad that I'm creating content that resonates and that you enjoy. And please, if there's any suggestions on how to make it better, let me know, because I want you to enjoy the podcast as much as I enjoy recording the podcast. So today's episode, I have been very fortunate in my career as a podcast editor to work with women and non-binary folk, but especially Black and brown women, because it's made my mission of trying to create a more equitable world stronger. I think it's important to find the healers in any situation. And Lestraundra Alfred, she goes by Les, is definitely that. She is a healer, even if she doesn't always acknowledge it. And you'll hear more about that in the conversation. But Les is the podcast host of Balanced Black Girl. She makes so many different efforts to make all different types of Black women be seen, focus on supporting Black women. She has a book club. She got to meet Michelle Obama as part of her book club. Les is the coolest, and she is so wonderful. She created this platform that helps elevate Black women, and if you haven't checked it out, I highly suggest it. She's a fellow Leo. She's very different. We're very different people, but we both at our core have that Leo energy and strength. So I really admire her, and I'm going to stop talking. I'm just going to stop gushing about her, and we're going to jump into the episode. Les, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is so different from how we normally chat and work together. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, I wanted to have you on because so much focus is on sadness. I don't want to do that. What's the thing lately that's, brought a lot of joy into your life?
Great question. I think the changing of the seasons. We're heading really close into summer right now. I love summer as a fellow Leo. It just is what I'm all about. And so it just the fact that the days are feeling really long, the warm air, and the ability to just be outside and feel the sun has been bringing me a lot of joy.
There's something about the sun just being on your skin that really does bring you to life.
Truly.
And also, I feel like it's appropriate, too, because you're really into plants.
I am, which has been a very recent thing. It wasn't until a little over a year ago I got my first plants, and then I was just instantly addicted and a plant lady.
Are there specific plants that you work with that you feel almost like a reconnecting energy, or there's something about it that seems super familiar?
Definitely. I would say my fiddle leaf for sure, which was my first plant. And now that I actually know a little bit more about plants than I did when I started, I'm like, who gets a fiddle leaf as their first plant? It's a terrible idea, but I do really love my fiddle leaf and feel a much stronger connection to that plant than I do with any of the others for sure.
What is a fiddle leaf? I don't even think I know what that is.
Oh, yeah. Fiddle leaf fig. So they are typically like these really beautiful trees. They're very Instagrammable. So you'd probably recognize it if you saw like pictures of them. And they are these trees, or they can be small plants that have these really big green kind of violin shaped leaves. And so they're really beautiful and they're really dramatic, but they're also a very fickle plant, and they are notoriously high maintenance to to take care of.
Did you have some sort of connection to it that especially made you want this to be your first plant?
No, I didn't. And my mom is also good with plants. And so growing up in the house, we had lots of plants, and she would have things like a peace lily or, some pothos plants. And she had done lots of the propagate the avocado seed and grow a plant out of that. And I had never had a fiddle leaf until this one, but it is something that I just instantly felt connected with. And what's interesting is that I don't think my parents were familiar with the plant before, but they also are very attached to my fiddle leaf plant now. And so it's really cute. My plant's name is Lamar. My dad is like not a plant guy, so he's not super familiar with different types of plants, but he called me not too long ago and he was like, I saw that they had some Lamars on sale at Home Depot. I thought about getting one, but I had to tell you because he was just like so into it because I was into it. It was really sweet. So it was almost kind of like a reverse connection with my family and that plant.
That's really cute. Les, you used to be a fitness instructor, right?
I was a personal trainer and fitness instructor.
And I'm really bad about this. There really is something about just like celebrating your body and, seeing the limits that you can push it to. It's very magical.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think I don't necessarily miss working in fitness, but having dedicated almost the past decade of my life to it, I am so appreciative of so many experiences that I had being so interested in fitness and just the awareness of my body that I now have just in terms of how I feel and how I move and what feels good and what doesn't. I really do owe a lot of that to being so involved in fitness, and I'm definitely very grateful for it.
Was that something that helped inspire Balanced Black Girl?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I started getting into fitness when I was in college and had my first corporate job after college that was totally miserable. And I thought, okay, I don't want to be in this job forever. I want a career change. I love fitness. So maybe if I become a trainer, I can help people the same way that fitness has helped me. And so for several years, I had kind of dual careers where I was still working in corporate America. And then I was also doing fitness on the side. And being in fitness really opened my eyes to a lot of just inequities, a lot of inequities when it comes to wellness. And a lot of those experiences in terms of working in gyms and not seeing another Black or brown person, going to wellness events with other wellness influencers and being kind of the token Black girl there definitely inspired the creation of Balanced Black Girl.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know that on your show, you've talked about the lack of equity in both fitness, but also spiritual spaces. That's a big reason why I created this show, because a lot of the practices, that are spiritual, I don't want to say all because there are Eurocentric like practices, but a lot of them do come from traditions from both Black and brown people. And then it's like the only people you see who are witches are predominantly white women. Do you consider yourself a healer?
I don't. And when you mentioned that to me, I was like, really? Am I? I don't at all. Honey, I feel like I'm usually just wading in the water trying to stay afloat myself.
I'm Les's editor, so I listen to your episodes probably more than most people do. There's something about each episode, I imagine, to hear that is to feel seen. I see that there's a lot of resources in spirituality and in fitness, but also in how to take care of yourself and how to take part in self-care. And that's a big part of your show. I think that you are putting out this thing and it's attracting so many people to you that really needed it. I see you as a healer. I think that you are able to put out content. There's something about it that it's real. It's speaking to people who might feel like they need it. And to me, that's very healing.
Thank you, Bex. I really appreciate that. I do think that helping people be seen, helping people tell their stories is something that I was put here to do. I think it's something that is a responsibility that I feel, and not in a obligation type of way, but just something that I feel very pulled to. So I just really appreciate that you recognize that.
A lot of our ancestors were just kind of natural storytellers, Black and brown people. This is your way of making sure that people's stories are told. And it's really wonderful. I really love the product that you put into the world.
Well, I mean, you help make it a lot better. So it's a team effort.
I just make it pretty.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you something that I'm sure people have asked you before, but what makes you feel the most balanced?
What makes me feel the most balanced? For me, it is really understanding what my needs are in that moment and doing what I need to do to make sure they're met. I know that for a lot of folks, balance, people don't like the word balance. A lot of women don't like the word balanced, and I can understand why. And I'm not here to preach that balance is a way or to shove it down anyone's throat. But I think that is because the definition of balance that a lot of folks go to is thinking that it means everything has to be at an equilibrium, or meaning that they have to be able to do all things at once. They have to be killing it at work and killing it at home and be a great mom and a great partner and have all the best workouts and all of these things. Like, I don't think that's what balance means at all. I think balance means giving attention and care to the parts of your life and the parts of yourself that you need most when you need it, and really being able to understand what those things are so that you can ensure your needs are met.
I think a lot of people, like you said, like they really just think that everything has to be perfect, which, perfection isn't real, but it's about paying attention to what you need at that moment. A couple of episodes ago, I had someone on who spoke about chakras, and I always had heard that they were like blocked, like, you have chakras, they get blocked or whatever. But she kind of corrected me and said that they're not necessarily blocked as they need to be balanced. And I think that makes sense, because it's like in most things, it's like you either have too much or not enough of something, get to a point where everything in your life is balanced. It's allowing that everything kind of works and meshes with like the life that you're trying to create.
Love that. I love that perspective. I totally agree.
So let's talk witchcraft. Is there anything that you do that you feel is witchy?
No, but I'm so fascinated by the witchy and by witchy practices. I think I've always been very fascinated by it, and just have never fully known where to start. I think over the past probably year or so, I have began releasing a lot of the values that I grew up with that just did not necessarily resonate with me. Like, I grew up kind of going to church. And by kind of, I mean the first half of my childhood, not at all. And then the second half of my childhood, my adolescence, it being kind of thrust upon me in kind of a jarring way, and constantly having to battle all of these things of, okay, I'm like 13 years old. I'm starting to figure out what my own values are. And now all of a sudden I'm being given all of these new values that I don't know if I necessarily agree with, or I don't know what necessarily is for me, or if something is right or if something is wrong. And so I had to do a lot of work, especially throughout my 20s, to kind of figure out what are my values? What am I drawn to? Can I explore different things? And so all of that to say, I have not yet described myself as witchy, but I am like very, very interested in the witchy.
I feel that. For a lot of us, like we came from, backgrounds that are kind of based in Catholicism or Christianity. So it's hard to, when somebody tells you that something is evil your whole life, it's kind of hard to like change that overnight. I guess when you want it, it shows up. All these different things and resources. And it is interesting with plants. I've just started kind of dabbling with that. I always thought I was really bad at keeping life, I guess. I've been growing cilantro. And since, that's something my ancestors have worked with for a long time, there's something about it that's very homey and reminiscent. And, even though I'm terrible at growing things, like that just sprouted. And the lavender, that's having a hard time. But I'm focusing on the good. And I think that with being able to just kind of find the things that like align with you, there's all different types of witches. Like there's green witches, which kind of focus on plants and how to use those plants in different things. I dabble a lot with candle magic because, like you, I'm a Leo, and I think I kind of just want results quickly. So candles help with that. Just a suggestion, if you are feeling really heavy during this time, I suggest a lot of yellow candles. Those help to attract joy, and you can do a couple of things with them. Like if you're just feeling really heavy and tired, and if you're just like, I just really would like to attract joy and the ability to leave what isn't mine, you could carve that into a candle, sprinkle cinnamon on it, and that would help attract it to you faster. So see, like there's little things that you can do that are witchy, can kind of help cause some simple relief or attract kind of what you need. I know that you kind of mess around with astrology stuff.
Yeah, I just got my human design chart earlier this spring read to me because I did a podcast episode about human design. And so before we recorded the interview, the amazing reader, Jasmine, who is wonderful, she was like, let's do your chart so that you can kind of understand where you stand from a human design aspect. And my mind was blown. And she gave me this beautiful chart that I refer to often, that I go back and kind of reread and get more familiar with the information. And it's so, so interesting.
I just can't believe how crazy accurate they are.
Yes. Wait, what's your human design type?
I am a projector.
Mm,
What are you?
love it. I'm a manifesting generator.
You have a lot of different things that are kind of going on in your life, but you're able to be kind of a guiding light.
I appreciate that. I know I feel having a lot of that generator energy where I'm constantly doing, and I have to remind myself often to like check in and slow down because it gets very easy for me to do a lot of things and realize I'm doing too many things. We're all learning.
Yeah, we are. Really hard sometimes. I don't know about you, but my mom was someone who I always joke around with her and I'm always like, Mom, you don't have to be such a martyr. And because she just does everything for everybody. And as amazing as it was to have her as a mom and, to be that person who like wants to help everyone, it's really exhausting to follow in the footsteps of that because you don't know when to say no.
Absolutely. I can completely relate to that. My mom is very similar, and she is that person in our family who is kind of the go-to. Anybody has a problem, they go to her. They need help, they go to her. They don't know what to do, they go to her for everything. And so I very much grew up seeing her be that person and being like, oh, I'm not going to be that person. Like that just can't, that can't be me. But it's also been very interesting that I also really appreciate is seeing now my mom create kind of better boundaries around that than she used to. And she does a lot less of that now than she previously did. And so that has also been cool to see that we can always start to take better care of ourselves in that way.
Do you feel like you might have played a role in helping your mom realize that?
I do. And I only say that because she's told me that. And which is like so moving and touching. I mean, she's like the podcast's #1 fan. Usually every Tuesday when a new episode is released, I usually wake up to a text from her because she's already listened to it by the time I wake up that day. And she's like so into it. And she has said that she's learned a lot from it. And so I definitely really appreciate that.
Girl, you a healer.
Girl, I need someone to heal me though. That's what I'm running into is I'm realizing like all of these things that I pour into other people, and I definitely try to walk the walk when it comes to my own self-care. And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, what if my self-care isn't enough? Like I need people to kind of pour into me a bit more because me pouring into myself as I'm pouring into everybody else ain't working. So I've been that's been my current challenge of like, how do I navigate that?
Do you meditate?
I do. Yes.
Does that help?
It does. And it helps in the moment. I do want to say though, I have lately been feeling called to want to really strengthen my meditation practice because I meditate almost every day, but I definitely rely heavily on guided meditations and being kind of limited to what is happening in that guided meditation or focusing on, whatever the person who created it has outlined the focus. I have not yet really taken my meditation training wheels off and just let myself freely meditate. And I wonder if I could see a bit more clarity from that.
If you feel like maybe you have things that you kind of in your past that you might want to heal from, I will suggest Francesca Hoagie. She does like sound baths. If you don't follow her already, I would check that out. But last week, she did one with like as a collaboration with someone else. So it was like she was playing the crystal bowls or whatever, and the other person kind of a guided meditation based on healing. And it was so intense that like after only maybe 3 minutes, I had to stop. I was like, whoa, there's just like too much coming back to me that I guess I haven't healed from. What I'm saying is you might be blocked because there might be things that maybe are coming up that you haven't connected in some way. So trying a different meditation habit or pattern or whatever, or something different might help.
That's real. That happens. But I definitely appreciate that advice. I definitely think it is time to kind of change up my practice a bit.
Even maybe like trying like some yellow candles, which again are like for attracting joy. I think that might be helpful because I feel like the most important thing that you really need to have is the intention. I mean, like candles and stuff like that for sure are just tools, but sometimes tools can help you get to your goal quicker. I think that we attract a lot of people who need that help, but like you were saying, like we don't take the time to rest ourselves.
Absolutely. Oh, I received that. Thank you. And I'm like, girl, let me go get some yellow candles tonight.
I'm gonna suggest a bunch of witchy stuff that might help.
Just loving all this. I'm just taking all sorts of notes.
Good. I'm glad. Honestly, like you do so much to help other people.
Right when I needed it, Bex.
That's how witchy stuff works. Like it's wild. I actually just gave someone a tarot deck the other day who we had worked together on a project, and she messaged me after I told her to sleep with the tarot deck under her pillow because that's what you're supposed to do, kind of like charge it and really get connected with it.
Mm-hmm.
She messaged me and she was sort of like, "Hey, is this normal?" And I was like, "It could be for you. Like with whatever things popped up in your dreams that maybe you hadn't dealt with, like this might be a good time to start doing that healing. And if nothing else, like pulling a card every day to kind of check in with yourself." So that's something that I'm going to list off for you too. Like I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I've seen a lot of resources about decks that are more centered on representation of Black people because unfortunately like that's a big thing in the witch community is like you don't always see things that represent Black and brown people. So
Yeah,
if you know something that you're into, I can recommend a couple of decks that might speak to you.
I would love that because I've wanted a deck for a long time and I've been in the market for one and I haven't yet found any that I'm like, this is the one I need or that call to me. But for
Yeah.
the right deck, I'm there.
Something I will warn you about is your tarot deck might be an asshole because I love my tarot deck, but it definitely is. There are times where maybe it's just like, you're really not getting this. And I'll pull the same card 4 days in a row. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm going to try to rest more. Okay.
It's making sure that you truly get the message.
And with me, it can be kind of hard sometimes. So I guess I understand.
Same, hard headed, you know?
Yeah. Something else that I'm going to suggest to you that might be helpful. If you don't have an altar, create one.
Mm-hmm.
With mine, honestly, I have a theme to it. I don't know. Like it's very symbolic to me and everything that's on there means something to me. And that's like what I really like about altars is that you can, make it be as detailed or as simple as you like. Put photos up of family members, who have gone to the other side that, you really wish would help you or just listen to you. I mean, having a deity is great, but honestly, it's like the people who want to help you the most are your ancestors. Life and shit's hard for us now, but
Mm-hmm.
god damn it, did they see more shit?
Ooh, my goodness. Word. I could not agree more. I actually love that you brought up making an altar because I do have a shelf, a space basically that I set aside like to be an altar that I've just kept open that I haven't done anything with, but that was like my intention for it. And I just haven't actually done it. So it was a good reminder for me of like, girl, use that space.
Yeah, and don't feel like you have to make it super complicated either. You could just put up like a couple of photos and have a
Yeah.
candle. You could do like a salt lamp. I don't know. You could do whatever you want, whatever you're trying to attract. Nothing's really coming to mind other than like a rose quartz. It's always like a good default one for like
Yeah.
removing negative energy.
That actually reminds me, I have some rose quartz that I don't know where it is. I think it's like for a while I was carrying it around with me, and I think it might be in a purse or something that I need to go find that I got at the flea market. Like right after I moved to LA, I was just wanting to explore, check out different things. So I went to this flea market early one like Sunday morning, and there was a vendor there that had all of these crystals with this really sweet old man. And I was just looking at everything there, and I kind of kept coming back to this rose quartz. And I ended up like not getting it because I think I didn't have cash on me or something, and just kind of like walked off to go look at something else. And he came and found me and was like, no, this is your, like, just take it. Like, this is yours, which I so appreciated and used to take places with me. And then now, since I haven't really been anywhere in like 3 months, I think it's like in a purse or something, but I need to locate it and actually use it.
Yeah, because that one especially, it was meant to find you if he just gave it
Yep.
to you. That's
Yep.
awesome.
He like came to find me and was like, no, take this.
He felt you needed healing energy. Well, Les, thank you so much for being on and taking the time to talk. Where can everyone find you, support you?
Yes, all of the things. Yes, my podcast, Balance Black Girl, comes out every other Tuesday. So any podcasting app that you listen to, it should be there. Also, publish everything on balanceblackgirl.com and on Instagram at Balance Black Girl Podcast is the podcast account, and I'm at Balanced Lefts, and that's usually where I hang out. But thank you so much for having me, Bex. This was so much fun. Like I said, I truly was taking notes of everything you were saying.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. So you can support Les and listen to the show, and all the links to that are in the show notes. One thing I want to reference, because this was recorded a couple weeks back, and I have done some research and I found a bunch of tarot decks and oracle decks. If you're kind of looking to get into something like that and you haven't been able to find a deck that represents you, these are all Black creators. So it's made by Black folk for Black folk. So maybe you could find a deck there that you really, really enjoy. So I hope that that might help some of you on your, craft journey. Definitely follow the show if you're not already. And again, if you want to follow me, my information is at Bexby Caston, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, thank you for listening. Please rate and review. That helps us. Thank you so much. I value you. I love you, my little witchy babies. Bye.
I can see you clear.